Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Hi.
Hey.
Well, this is the first episode we're recording post-election
Results.
decision.
Right. What we knew.
So yeah, I'm thrilled.
I mean, man, has
No
it been
bones
a
about it.
wild ride, though.
Yeah, it's been a really weird year. And I found out a couple of days ago that someone in my family lost someone to COVID. And someone else close to them is also struggling in the hospital with it right now. It's been a really up and down year, man.
I know.
I want there to be a light at the end of this tunnel.
We keep saying no expectations.
Ooh,
and wow, it is.
It's like, okay, well, careful what you ask for. Sorry to all of you. I decided to put that
bring
on.
along for that journey.
I still think it's better than having expectations and being super attached to the outcome. And
Agreed.
then
Then
getting
it's even harder.
sideswiped,
And then it's even harder when things
go sideways,
Yeah.
which they often do.
which they certainly have been.
Okay, well, I wanted to start this off with a couple of reviews. Remember how we did our Body Keeps the Score episode and I guilted people into giving us reviews because we'd and particularly I had to put so much time into those episodes. And so then I said, if you've ever been inclined, give us a rating and review. And 2 people listened to me.
You bullied them into it.
So, okay, one person said, I want to shout them out. So one person says, worth it. I've been on the self-discovery/expansion path for about 5 or 6 years now, and I feel this podcast has jump-started that process. I've gained a new resonating perspective on so many topics, and it's only made me hunger for more. Rachel and Kristen have such a great way of expressing things, have such great wisdom, and have a brilliant structure to their podcast with side chats, personal blog readings, interviewing successful and transformed former clients, etc. Great thing to add to your information and energy intake. That's really great. Thank you. And then the other one was from someone whose username is Poodle Party, which I liked. And the title is Soul Sisters. I am so grateful for these 2 insightful women who both always seem to be in sync with what I need to unpack in my life. I came across them by chance several years ago, and I've never missed an episode. Wow.
Wow, that's a lot of hearing us in your ear.
I always glean many pearls of wisdom and feel more understood after listening. Well, thank you, Poodle Party.
Those were so great.
Oh, it's 111 on 11/11 as we're recording this.
Oh.
A portal is open. I don't actually know if that's true, but now it's 112. Well, I saw it
For a split second.
That was nice. That always makes me feel happy to see ratings and reviews.
They make our day, and then we want to shout you out because we love them.
Not because I need external validation, but because it's like, oh yeah, there's a reason that we sit here and do this
week after week.
And some days I don't feel like doing it. Frankly, I mean, just sitting here talking to you.
Right. When we're recording this, we're just sitting here looking at each other.
But then you're like, oh, right. There's people who are listening to this who I've never met and might never, ever meet.
And so it really helps for you to show your faces sometimes and just say, hi.
You don't have to show your face.
You show your
username. So, okay. I was laughing with Kristen earlier when I told her what I wanted to do this side chat topic about, because I was thinking of on the wheel of things that we discuss on our podcast, this is like a 1 degree removal from anything else we've ever talked about. It's practically the same thing as what we've always talked about, just a slightly different angle. But you want to know what? I stand by that because I think that sometimes a 1 degree difference in perspective changes how you see something and actually can make it sink in, maybe in a way that the other, 364 degrees didn't or something,
It's true. And I would also argue we all need reminders of these things. So even if something you've heard us talk about it before, sometimes hearing it again in a slightly fresh way is like, wow, yeah, that really is important to me.
I mean,
and you
I
double
need
down.
reminders.
Exactly. I need them too. So it helps you double down on taking it to heart.
Okay. So I'll start with this story of where it came from. Yeah. So I was coaching one of my clients and we'd gotten to the point where she wanted to do some informational interviews. And I gave her some homework. All right, find a handful of people, either people you know or people you know of, who you can reach out to and ask to either talk to you or introduce you to someone that you can talk to. And, let's try to have a few conversations. And so a couple of weeks later, I don't think it was more than 3 weeks. It was probably closer to like 2. I hear from her and she's like, it's not working. And she's very frustrated and feeling down. And I paused and I was like, okay, hold on. We need to define what does working mean? Why do you think it's not working? Well, I haven't heard back from like anyone, or I've heard back from people, but I haven't scheduled any calls yet. And I'm like, okay, is it not working or is it not working yet? Those are two very, very different things. And I think we are very prone to decide it's not working when the real answer is that it's not working yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to talk about today.
Oh, this is a good one because humans are inherently impatient.
It's probably my worst quality.
I think it's most people's worst quality.
I don't know. It's not your worst quality. What is your worst quality?
What is my worst quality? Oh,
I think you and I would disagree on what your worst quality is.
Probably.
I don't know. I think it's like how bad you are at managing your time.
I think I would actually agree with you on that. Yeah.
I mean, in different phases of life, I would say different things.
My tendency to overwhelm currently.
Very easy to kind of get a little bit lost in the clouds accidentally. You don't want to be that way.
No, that's true.
But anyway.
But yeah, you're more impatient.
Very.
But we all struggle with impatience.
Yes.
It's a human thing. We all want what we want and we want it yesterday. And we all want things to work immediately.
It's that commercial. Was that a national commercial or was it just a local commercial that they would play during like daytime TV, like Maury and like Price is Right? It was like a payday lender type of thing. And it's like, it's my money and I want it now.
Well, I heard it. Now, maybe we were just in Virginia.
Both in Virginia.
So maybe it's a Virginia.
Let me know if that's a national thing.
Please.
It's my money and I want it now. That's what I think of when I think of like impatience.
But yeah, it's true. I mean, we don't like to wait for things to happen in their own time. We want them to happen in our time.
Right now.
And it's a good question because there are times when something's just not working. So I think what we're talking about today is the difference between, is it really not working, period, and we need to try something else? Mm-hmm. Or is it just not working yet and we need to be a little bit more patient?
You need to like just tough it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. So for her, okay, let's start with what I did with my client. The first thing was to define, what does working mean? What does it mean for something to work? And in each situation, it's different. So her, I think, expectation was off. It was, well, I need to hear back from all of these people. I'm like, no. You could reach out to 20 people. And if you end up with a call with 1 or 2 of them, I'll be fine with that.
Those are pretty good odds, actually.
Right. But her perception of the odds was very different than I think what reality is. So
you can think something's not working and it's actually working just fine.
Exactly correctly.
Here's an example from our business. Years ago, we promoted a course.
Oh, man. So embarrassing.
Years ago.
I think you're talking about 6 years ago.
I think that's right. And we had, I can't remember now, but we had some big number of what we thought.
We wanted to get like 100 people in this course.
Okay, that's
something
what it was.
like that.
We wanted like 100 members in this course. And we got way fewer.
I think we got 16.
Yeah, you're right. Because that was the very first time we ran one of our programs. And we were devastated. We were like, oh, this is not anywhere close. We clearly failed. This is not working. Later, we worked with a business coach years later who informed us that a certain percentage of your email list, I think it's like 1%, signing up for a program is really good.
And ours was like
And I was like, two or three.
It was like double or triple the rate you could expect people to sign up.
So we did very well.
Actually crushed it.
Considering our audience size at the time, but we thought it wasn't working. So
Actually,
sometimes your expectations are not a match to reality.
What's funny is I'm not sure we ever did as well. Percentage-wise after that.
It's probably true. Because the first time you open up something, it's exciting and, people want to jump in.
It's novel.
Yeah. Right. So again, you might need to zoom out and get some perspective and say, wait a minute, is this really not working? Or do I just not have a clear sense of what
the expectation should be?
Are my expectations all out of whack here?
Right. I asked her, if you were online dating and you went on like Bumble, would you be pissed that you hadn't met your spouse in a month?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not reasonable. Well, yeah, nor is your expectation that you should have heard back from all of these people and had calls with all of these people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're convinced something's not working, you need to check your definition of what it means to be working, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
Very often you have a skewed perception and you might need to go do a little digging about, well, actually, what is the right thing to expect? Because Kristen and I just very arbitrarily assigned a number that we wanted. And then anything less than that was going to be failure. When actually, like, industry standards were a very different number than what we'd randomly decided upon.
Sometimes it helps to get outside support on setting expectations so that you don't choose something arbitrarily and then feel let down by it. So
I think we do that all the time.
On the informational interview front, plug for my episode with Elise Austin on her experience. And she kind of gave her statistics on how many people actually responded to her. And then how many people who responded to her who were actually helpful out of all the people she reached out to. It was a pretty small percentage.
Very small.
So it helps you, something like that would help you set expectations on, oh, that was someone else's experience. Maybe that helps me set expectations for my own experience.
Okay, not only that, but the time then it should take. Because if you have a clear definition of what the real expectations are, then you should know it's not reasonable for me to expect this to have worked out in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. I don't think 2 or 3 weeks is a reasonable expectation for almost anything to work out.
Mm-hmm. True. I agree.
I just, it just takes time for things to work or to heal or to just shake out.
Okay, so I think we're describing one variation here, which is you're doing the right things. It just hasn't worked yet.
Yeah.
I think there's three, and maybe we'll see.
I don't know about this. We're going to see where you're going.
We're figuring this out in real time. I think there's three possibilities here. One is you just haven't given it enough time, but you're doing the right thing. It just hasn't worked yet.
And, or you're doing the right thing, but your perception of it is skewed.
Correct.
Because you have a slightly wonky interpretation of how it should be going.
Exactly.
But you're still doing the right thing. You just have slightly weird perception of it. Check your expectations.
Yes, agreed. Two is you're doing some of the right thing, but maybe we need some tweaks. So I have an example of this that I'll share in a moment. And the third is this is straight up not working. Let's just go in a different direction.
Okay. Let's go back to number two. The one that you were holding up with your middle finger.
Yes. I literally have fingers up right now, counting to 3.
Okay.
So, my example is I have wanted and tried for years and years and years to be a morning person, to wake up early.
I knew you were going to say that.
Did you? I didn't even tell you I was going to say that.
I was going to finish your sentence, become a morning person.
Oh, You're
very predictable.
This is.
You've also said this on the podcast before.
But I think it is relevant to this topic because I tried a lot of different things.
You also haven't tried that hard over very many years to become many other things other than a morning person.
I've tried to be a person who exercises regularly. That's another one.
I guess, but I don't know. I knew you were going morning person with this.
Yeah, well, you know me too well. It's becoming scary.
Okay, go ahead.
So I tried a lot of things and I read all of the articles because there's countless ones on how to be a morning person.
Advice for the most part.
And I tried a bunch of it and I just was going to give up. I was going to say, this is not working. I am not a morning person, period. I was going to put it in category number 3, which is just stop trying. This isn't working. But I kept trying some different variations. So some of the things I was doing, I was trying to wake up and read first thing in the morning. I was trying to wake up
fall
and
asleep when
journal. Yeah, both of those things just put me right back to
I
sleep.
wish I could fall asleep that easily.
I tried the thing where you put the alarm clock across the room and I would just wake up and go turn it off and go right back in bed. I tried a lot of different things that are supposedly...
You were very annoying in college because you would set your alarm like an hour before you needed to get up and you would just, in your sleep, turn it off. Like 8 times really before you got up. Yeah. Like
for anyone who doesn't know, Rachel and I were roommates in college. This is why she knows that.
Yeah. I mean, you literally would just turn it off without even being conscious of it. It was like 8 times.
I was going to say, I don't really remember that.
And I told
I don't remember that. I was asleep.
And I told you, why do you do that? You're not actually getting good sleep, you realize, because you keep getting slightly woken up, but you don't realize you're getting woken up.
So
it's
then
kind
I
of like
tried
sleep
the thing
apnea,
where you put the alarm clock across the room and you have to wake up. And then I just went right back to sleep. Yeah. So I was about to give up.
Clearly.
But
anyone would have told you to do.
Because it's not working. It's clearly not working. But what I finally realized is if I get up and I leave the house, so if I go do the same things, journaling, reading, whatever, but at a coffee shop, I'll do it. If I get up and I go to the gym, I'll do it. If I go up, even just go for a walk, I'll do it. I have to get up and go out of the house. So finally I found something that worked, but I had to keep tweaking. So the big thing of waking up early, it just wasn't working yet, but I needed to try different avenues to make it work. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. So that's my example for number 2. Maybe it's not, don't give up on the whole thing. Just maybe give up on some of the things that keep not working and try something different.
So this is going to open up a whole nother can of worms, but that's why we do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because my devil's advocate argument for that is like, why do you have to try so freaking hard to become a morning person? We tell people all the time, don't go against how you're wired. And isn't exhausting every single option until you finally find something that works? Is that it working? Or is...
Good question.
You know what I mean?
Good question. I think the answer comes in how it feels. So on the mornings that I get up and I leave the house and I go for a walk or I go to the gym, I feel better. So it actually makes me feel good.
Okay.
Better than when I sleep in later and feel like I have to rush into starting my day.
It's not like I should be a morning person.
Right.
I want to be a morning person. I just can't figure out how to make it work.
Right. It feels good on the times when I can make this happen, but I can't figure out how to consistently make that happen.
Why did you want to be a morning person?
For that reason. I like to slowly move into the day. I don't like to wake up and feel like I'm rushing right into my first thing. But typically, I would wake up just in time to get ready and go do my first thing. And I don't like to rush. You know me. I don't like to rush.
You're not really very good at anything when you're rushing.
No
one is.
No one is.
You're like particularly not great at
it. That's one of my challenges. And that's like everyone's bad at that, but I'm particularly bad at it. The way everyone's impatient, but you're particularly impatient. This is my thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm going too fast and you're going too slow. That's part of our problem.
Always.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of waking up and moving slowly into the day, but I need to wake up early enough that I have time to move slowly into my day. But I couldn't figure out a way to consistently do that. Yeah. So it was worth it to me to figure it out. Sometimes it's just give it up. If it's not even worth it and you keep trying to push yourself, if you're an introvert and you're just trying to push yourself to be an extrovert and it doesn't even feel good when you do it,
you're doing it because you think you should or because you feel
That's the third category.
Ashamed.
It's just not working, period. Stop it.
So on that note, I do have an old episode that they should listen to that's very related from back in April, a side chat about, are you copping out or letting yourself off the hook? Because those are two different things. When you're making excuses about not doing something versus like, just stop doing it because it's not really aligned with you. But so I'll link to that. I'll also link to the episode with Elise and a couple others that I think will be helpful after hearing this. But let's talk about it not working, period. Mm-hmm. Because I think that even if I'm just trying to think of myself right now, because I told you this earlier. I was like, what's your feedback for what some people are going to say? Like, remember when I talked to Shani Silver about being single?
Yes.
Earlier this year? I think that was also from April of 2020. And why did that? You made a face.
Yeah, that feels way longer ago.
That's weird. It feels, I don't know, it feels sooner and also really far away too. But anyway, she's been single for 12 years at the time we recorded that. And I have been single for what, like 8 years? That's a long time. Anyone on the outside looking at me and her would say, you're doing something wrong. It's not working. Because like, you clearly don't have the result that you ideally want. So clearly you're doing something wrong because it's been more than 2 weeks. You've given it more than 2 weeks and it's not working. So how do you answer? I have an answer to that, but how do you answer that? Because people might be like trying to have a baby, or they might be like trying to get a job and it's just taking so long. And they're like, okay, well, if it's taking this long, years and years and years, then maybe it's just not working, period. And it's never going to work. And I just need to like get off that thing. Stop expecting that.
It's a good question. And the first thing that comes to mind, and I probably I'll probably have lingering thoughts later about this. But the first thing that comes to mind is there's other people involved in this who have their own life circumstances. So for example, when I'm talking about waking up early, that's just me figuring out my own thing in my own life. Nobody else is really affected by that. When you're talking about being single or being in partnership, there's a person on the other side of that future partnership who has their own stuff going on.
Yeah.
And to say it's not working, that I want partnership and I don't have that yet, to me, that's like, well, you don't know what's going on with that other person. You can't control their timeline or their life circumstances. So how can you know it's not working when you don't even know who that person is and what's going on in their life? It might make all the sense in the world when you are in partnership with that person. You're like, well, it wasn't working because they were not in a place for me to be in partnership with them. Does that make sense?
Of course. So things can happen quicker when there aren't other people involved. Sure.
Exactly. So sometimes it's not working, or it seems like it's not working, but it's because you don't have all the information, because other people have their own free will
and agenda and journey and whatever.
Yep.
But the thing is that when I talked to Shani, she was like, my experience of being single before she came to this realization. So for about 10 out of those 12 years, situation was the same. She was single, but her attitude about it was totally different. She said, my attitude around being single was not working. I felt miserable about it. I felt ashamed by it. And so her starting her podcast and like the kind of movement that she sort of created around it was deciding it's not that being single is the problem. It's that my attitude around it is hurting me. And that's what's not working.
Yep.
And so I needed to change my perception of this and my enjoyment of this. And now she's like, I just really love my life. So like, if you're loving your life, then I would say you're doing something right and something is working.
Whatever you're doing is clearly working.
So I would also say for my own, so I was thinking about this for myself. What I would say is, if you've been in the same rut for years and years and nothing has changed and your attitude hasn't changed either, and you haven't evolved as a person and nothing else in your life has really changed, then something's not working. But if you can look around you and you can see that so many other things have changed, you personally, maybe you've evolved as a person, maybe you've become less anxious, maybe you've worked on your mental health, maybe you feel fitter, you've changed your diet, maybe you feel healthier, maybe you've made more money, maybe you've gotten a job that you enjoy more, and it's just that's the one thing that's still kind of lingering. That to me is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. That just means it's not working yet. Because look at the rest of the evidence you have that things are working out for you, that you have made progress, that you have made changes, that you have upgraded and evolved, and that your life is very different in so many ways than it was 5, 8, 2, whatever years ago. I think if you look around you and you see so little has changed and that you've been in the same boat, in the same circumstances with the same people, and it's not just one area of your life, it's kind of everything, that's a big indication that something you're doing is not working, period.
Yes. That's that third category where we need a bigger change. But sometimes, and nobody wants to hear this part, but sometimes even if you're in the first category where you're doing everything right and you see progress and you're committed to your own growth and things are working out in some areas of life, it's just, you need more time.
Yeah. And who's
to say what's enough time?
That is one of the points I want to make, is that ultimately no one gets to decide how long something takes except you, and maybe not even you.
Maybe not even you.
But you know what I mean is that someone could tell Shani or me that, well, what you're doing is not working. Look how long you've been in the same status. And I would say, fuck off. Because you don't get to decide the timeline on which something works in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's not up to you. There is no rule about how long something is supposed to take. Not like that. I mean, if you're pregnant for 14 months, we've got a problem. That's supposed to take 9 months. You know what I mean?
There's a good reason for that.
Right. But when we're talking about things like getting a job or a relationship or something you really want, big, complicated things in life, it's not really anyone's decision to decide how long that takes. Kristen and I love Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. We just love him. And Kristen Bell, of course, and Monica.
Oh, we love them all.
And he often talks about how he was working, basically like as a waiter or whatever, like the odd jobs you do when you're an actor trying to make it for 9 years before he got punked, which was like his big break. 9 years. That's longer than I've been single.
A lot of people would have said, stop it, dude, it's not working.
Right? And you know what? Honestly, if he had decided 5 years in it's not working and he went off back to Michigan and did a job in the car industry because he loves cars, then fine. I don't think that would have made him a failure. I don't think that would have meant that he'd given up. I just think that he decided it's no longer worth it to keep doing it like I'm doing it. But he decided, nope, it can still work. And so he kept going. And 9 years in, he got his big break. So
and now he's married to Kristen Bell. So
I mean, he did something right. So I just don't think anyone else gets to decide how long something ultimately takes. If you believe that it's possible and, you're doing the work, you're not burying your head in the sand. You're not in denial. You're not resistant to change. You're okay, I'm just going to keep trucking. And I really do want this.
Mm-hmm.
Then no one else gets to decide how long that takes.
I wish we could ask Dax about this, but I bet he would tell you that sometimes he would go into the second category of, okay, some of what I'm doing is not working. So let me make some tweaks.
Sure, maybe.
And I think that's a part of the journey of if it's not happening as quickly as you want and you have to be patient, then sometimes it helps to look at it from different angles and say, can I actively wait for what I want?
Right. Yeah.
Can I keep growing or can I keep trying some different things along the way? Because if I'm going to wait anyway, hey,
I have a client right now who's doing that, who had a serious relationship of many years that, end, and she was living with her partner. And so he moved out and now she's got an extra bedroom and she can afford to live on her own, but she'd really like to not have to pay all of the expenses herself. So she's looking for a housemate. And she's put ad up on Craigslist or whatever, and nothing. And it's COVID, so it's hard.
Sure.
But she's like, am I not doing enough? Do I need to send out? She's like, I guess I could just send out a bunch of emails, and just kind of work at this like a job to try to get the housemate. Or I was thinking of clearing out that room and hiring an organizational consultant to come in and clear the space in my house. And maybe that would be a better way to make, to invite that to happen instead of forcing it. And I'm like, yeah, I think the latter, because otherwise you would be deciding it's not working. I need to do, I need to force this to happen. And in this way, it's I think it's working. It's just not on my timeline. So let me do something that's actively helpful and might actually grease the wheels, clear out that space. Maybe it'll make it go faster. Maybe it won't. Either way, I'm going to get a good result because I'm going to have a more organized house with less crap. Mm-hmm. So if something feels like it's not working, maybe look at something else.
Yeah.
And do something that feels like actively waiting as opposed to passively twiddling your thumbs and complaining about how nothing is working.
Mm-hmm.
Complaining about how nothing is working never makes it work faster.
That doesn't work.
Doesn't work, unfortunately.
Nope.
So how does this feel? I could probably go on. I think we've made our point.
I think we have. And I'd love to hear some people's examples of sometimes you don't know until after the fact. if something
what was working and what just needed more time or
retrospect
whatever.
is 2020, right? So I'd be curious if you have any examples that come up where you're noticing yourself in one of those three categories, where maybe you were just being impatient, or maybe you needed to make some tweaks, or maybe you just had to give it up because it was just not working and it was a relief to give it up. I think that'd be helpful if you wanted to share those to inspire people who might be in the thick of one of those things and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So to sum up, you might need to give it more time, maybe more time than you really want to give it.
But you can actively wait along the way.
You can surely actively wait along the way. You can make tweaks to what you're doing or to your attitude about what you're doing.
Maybe both.
Yeah, probably both. And then sometimes it's just straight up never going to work. And the way that you know that is because probably you've spent a lot of time on it. You've tried a lot of different things. It is just not working.
And it doesn't feel good anymore.
It doesn't feel good. And you're not even sure you really want it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it feels more like a should at this point than something you actually really want. Maybe you still do really want it, but you've tried it every which way and it just is not working. So then maybe you need to walk away and give up. And you know what's funny is that the second you really give up is when you'll find out if something was right for you, because that's when it'll happen. So you totally detach from it.
That's always how it goes.
Yeah. Don't try to detach from it in like a
way of attaching to it.
Well, in a way to like try to trick the universe into giving it to you. The universe is smarter than you. It's not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's not how it works.
Your energy is not going to be pure.
But I think we've all seen enough people bang their head against the wall for years and years and years, and nothing is changing in their life and nothing is working, to know the difference for other people in what's not working versus what might just need more time, what's not working yet. I think if you can see that in other people, I think it becomes easier to recognize it in yourself too.
Yeah, it's harder to see it in yourself.
It's always harder to see your own crap.
But
accurately.
that's why we're talking about this today, because we're hoping this is going to prompt you to take a little bit of a zoomed out approach to your own life and ask, what do I think is not working? And am I right about that? Or do I just need to give this more time, or a slightly different approach, or a different mindset?
Mm-hmm.
So let us know how this resonates.
Also, let me say one more thing.
Do it.
I think that if something is going to work, it's just going to work, and it doesn't even really ultimately matter how you feel about it or what you're doing or how crazy you are or not. Like, yes, I think that we can make it harder or longer on ourselves, but I'm just thinking if I decided I give up, I don't think I'm just going to be alone for the rest of my life. I honestly think it would probably take the exact same amount of time. And like, I would just
also feel like
run into someone.
To decide that.
What?
I feel like you don't get to decide that. You know?
What if I did? But what if I did?
Well, you could actively turn away every single person who comes along.
But you know
right?
what I mean? Like, what if I just came to the conclusion that that's how it was going to be? I still think even if I went into it with that headspace, the same result would end up happening.
Exactly.
So like,
think about
things happen the way they're going to happen.
There's a lot of people out there who have decided this is not going to work for me.
And then it does.
And then they're proven wrong.
Like Dax.
Yep.
I mean, I don't actually know that he got to the point that he decided it wasn't working, but I've heard that story so many times too, where they're like, I decided to quit this profession. And then I went on one more interview because I'd already scheduled it, or I went on one more audition because I'd already scheduled it. And then that was like my big break. The giving it up actually works really well if you sincerely are just like, fuck it.
So if you end up going, don't worry if you end up going the Route 3 path where you're like, I just give up.
It'll still happen if it's supposed to.
And if you have any regrets or fears, just know that's not actually going to be the end. It just might be the end of you agonizing over it.
Yeah. So you can't go wrong. Again, reminder, things work out the way that they're supposed to. And, you don't have the omnipotence that you think you do. Scarlett agrees. It's probably my mailman. All right. Well,
we'll be back on Tuesday.
I'm just going to let her keep barking because we're at the end of this episode. Sure. It doesn't matter anymore.
She's just throwing in her 2 cents at the very end with us.
So annoying.
We'll be back on Tuesday with a special episode.
Oh yeah, a special one. All right. Come back for that.
Bye.
Say bye, Scarlett.